First of all, I would like to thank Antariksh and his team for building Nalcon to this level, because I have been associated with Nalcon from the very first year when they started, and I have seen it growing leaps and bounds. And to my delight, now Nalcon has gone overseas, and that happened during the toughest period when we were all witnessing close downs and lockdowns and whatnot, and he was doing conferences all over in different continents. So thanks to Nalcon and Antariksh and his team. We are here to discuss about SSE. Now, to start with a slightly lighter note, SSE is SASE minus an A, minus the A. Now, it's very exciting and it's very interesting to know that whenever a new acronym is delivered in the market or spread in the market by either the Gartners or Forresters or McKinsey's or any other such organization, it actually becomes very fancy. And it actually becomes not just fancy, it catches attention of the security community very, very fast. So today it is SSE. It's the topic that I'm going to deal with the two very distinguished CXOs here is challenges and upsides of adoption. Now, I'm not very sure that a term which was coined like last year has already seen a lot of adoption. However, if we go a little bit into the history of SASE, that still holds a lot of prominence. But the word in the industry is that, because it has a lot of complexities, a lot of challenges in terms of its adoption in totality. Therefore, a shortcut was found, and an alphabet was reduced from the acronym. So SASE became SSE. Is that the right interpretation of the whole scenario? With that, I'm going to surprise both of you with this question. So is that the right interpretation that I'm doing, or do you think that SSE is the right way to go for the CISOs?
What I feel, I think your interpretation is correct, because I think whoever has coined this term, this is based on the kind of problems what industry was facing, the kind of change in the technology transformation which is happening. And because of the change in the transformation, and as you mentioned, Nalcon has increased in last 2 years. So even the technology platforms have changed completely. The adoption has become digital is like a by default adoption now. So any small organization, otherwise the technology was the purview of a bigger organization, but now, we are seeing now so many startups which are coming up, right? And those startups are based on the technology. Not these startups doesn't mean that only the technology, but even the business level startups are also coming in. So the way the adoption has become, like cloud adoption has become, so based on that, your number of problems and the areas of problem were completely different. And as you felt like, okay, because it's a jerk in the whole system, right? It's a very disruptive evolution. And from long-term perspective, it is really good. But from short-term perspective, I think, are we prepared to that? And I feel that, one is that if you're starting a new company, then you have a liberty, or rather the scope for putting down these systems from the day one. But if you have a legacy, then changing the legacy. For example, in our system, by the way, this has, whatever I'm saying, it has nothing to do with Yes Bank. So that's the first disclaimer. Second disclaimer, which I was telling Rahul before starting. So whatever we are saying, that okay, that is my personal opinion and has nothing to do with a product or implementation or anything. So please take that as my technology level knowledge sharing. So the kind of problems what we saw, the longer run perspective, Rahul, I think this is going to happen. only time is only the solution. And as I was saying, that changing the legacy really takes a lot of time, right? I mean, we have seen Y2K, we have seen so many changes. We have seen e-commerce industry evolving it. Maybe 5 years down the line, SASE is going to be by default, and SSE will be like, you're working on partial part. Again, it depends on the kind of company and the kind of readiness what you have for adopting the SASE. But if you see where we have a huge footprint and the impact is going to be huge, in that case, it is better to take SSE as the first step. But eventually and in my view, that for every company, we need to have that in our planner somewhere that, because access is, although, I mean, in our all policies, whoever is from the corporate side will say, need to know basis access. Now that because of so much of outsourcing, so much of fintech, so much of business level tie-ups which are happening, need to know itself is a vague, right? I mean, so what do you mean by need to know? Today, what I need to know, tomorrow it's obsolete, right? And therefore, we will have to come with a kind of context-based access management also. And so we need to have that in our roadmap, and we need to really mature our systems and the architecture in a way that we add that A as a part of SSE. So that's
yeah, so I think a great start to the conversation, and I'm sorry I disrupted the whole flow of conversation, the way I planned it and the way I'm doing it. However, I think there is a merit in coming straight onto the topic rather than starting with some theory and then coming to the practicals. So if we Rajesh, if we talk about the composition of SASE and the composition of SSE, there's just one element which is missing between the two. Now, when we talk about the composition of SASE, it starts with the networking part, which is the SD-WAN, then CASB, then firewall as a service, then zero trust network access, centralized management, and whatnot, right? And when we talk about the SSE, and that's my understanding, I'll also request each one of you to contribute to this conversation if I'm missing something. So the composition of SSE is firewall as a service, CASB, ZTNA, secure web gateway. Now, between these two, what was difficult in SASE that we had to, tone it down and bring it to SSE?
So, yeah. Hello.
You can,
yeah.
you heard.
So I think, yeah. So it's a very, very good question which you asked, and a lot of vendors and a lot of people actually confuse between the SASE and the SSE. So I think let's have to take the 2 step back and try understanding the difference. So the difference is, as you rightly said, it's only the SD-WAN which is different in SSE versus the SASE. So if you see in 2000, just before all this pandemic and all that, so everybody was talking about SASE because that's a paradigm shift for anybody, because people wanted their workloads and all that which were there in the cloud, and they wanted to access their applications which are sitting in the data centers and all that. But pandemic actually changed quite a lot, and a lot of those applications which were in data center were actually moved to the cloud. So then, and then most of the people had the sort of SD-WAN and the network connectivity and all that for the data centers and all that. But I think the immediate ask there was like, how do I ensure my now workloads have moved to the cloud? How do I ensure my cloud is safe there? So what most of the people are doing it is they're taking a step sort of approach. First is implement SSE, which is basically a minus SD-WAN, and then maybe in the second step go towards the SASE. So a SASE is definitely a strategic solution, because that will anyway ensure all your applications which are in your data center and which requires the access to the data center would also be accessible. But I think it's a stopgap arrangement, and maybe in a couple of years time you will see SASE will eventually become a sort of a solution, because sort of a companies like us, which are banks, where my crown jewels and all that are there, I still do not wanted to put that in the cloud. So I do still wanted to have that sort of a connectivity through my SD-WAN and from my network connectivity point of view. And I do still have some of my workloads, like some of the office applications or collaboration applications which are on the cloud. So I still wanted to have secure that, so that my data, which is transitioning over the multiple CSPs, doesn't actually, confidentiality of the data doesn't go out. So that's why I think it's maybe a one step before the actual implementation of a SASE.
Also, to my understanding and whatever I have read or understood about the comparison, the differences between the two. Now, that's a question that I want to ask both of you one by one, starting with Anuprita. What is more important? Is it both security and the upgradation of network infrastructure, which suits or which can tackle the changing needs of an organization? Or you think that network can wait for now because we are facing a lot of turbulence in the cybersecurity space, and therefore that needs to be tackled first and network can come later, and therefore SSE is the immediate solution, SASE can wait. Is that the case?
So it's a very subjective question, Rahul, because again, as you mentioned, like, can network let's say upgrade can wait because there is a security issue? So for organization, like, if you go only technology way, like we say, okay, this is first step, second step, third step and all. But security is so dynamic because your threat landscape is so dynamic. We had not envisaged the adoption of cloud in before 2 years, before pandemic, right? And I've seen in the group, in the CXO group, when we discuss, or maybe with couple of CIOs, when they spoke to me that, Anuprita, this is what I have it. What have you adopted, or how are you managing your work from home and all? And they were not prepared for the VPN and VDI access and all. And regulator says that, however, whatever the situation is, we can give you a bit of a time duration, but obviously you need to ensure that customer data is safe, right? In that case, there are a lot of solutions like, VPN on cloud, VDI on cloud. These kind of solutions were like, okay, quick, take off, right? Zero runway, the distance, and then you just take off. And a lot of companies have really gained the attention that. And as Rajesh was saying, SASE was one of them. Might have been the solution, might have been ready 5 years back, but this was opportunity for everybody, so which is good. Coming back to your question on, do we take a decision on whether we upgrade the network or we take the SASE? So honestly, from organization perspective, it becomes like you weigh. Okay, it's like you need to calibrate and you need to find out what exactly the priority is. But we can't say that, yes, this is important, and we should not put SSE or SASE implementation in our roadmap. Because if we are not prepared for today, obviously this is a disaster. We are just waiting for the time. And, if we don't adopt the way we are having connected, or rather, the business tie-ups. So a lot of business have evolved where one startup comes with one idea, but regulatory point of view, they can't do it. So they take the platform of banking for having a tie-up and providing has somebody thought about Swiggy providing grocery, right? Has somebody thought about Dunzo, which is a delivery, right? We always know the courier system is like only maybe your any FedEx and all those things, right? So these kind of solutions are wallet, right? UPI, we never thought about it. In last 2 years, UPI adoption is like huge, right? From that perspective, if you say which one to choose, we can't choose only one. Obviously, we will have to choose with the priority, but we will have to have these kind of solution as a part of strategic roadmaps?
I asked a very controversial question to you. I can't expect you to take sides, but
Yeah, and I very well dodged that actually. Otherwise, I would have been out.
so I'm going to rephrase that question for Rajesh. Precisely what we are talking about, that security capabilities are prioritized over the network capabilities of an organization, and therefore SSE is going to be the first choice, then the SASE. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, you're right. And as I said, so most of the organizations already have some or other sort of a network, whether it's through the SD-WAN or through the VPN and all that, they have those type of connectivities in any way. So that definitely, for I think most of the organizations, the immediate priority is to the workloads which are there on the cloud, at least how do I secure those workloads? I think that definitely will be a priority, at least for next couple of years, till everybody moves into it and we move all our applications also onto the cloud.
Great. So
And just to add,
sure.
one is that what we think about it from the roadmap perspective, if there's a technology firm and there's no regulated entity, then you have a good, free cricket ground to play. But when there is a regulated entity, obviously regulator is there. So we have umpire and we have third umpire and everything we have it. So we have to even balance that also. But I feel that even from CISO's perspective, this thought should be for preparing. It shouldn't be only a technology initiative. It should also be a security initiative, because eventually it is addressing the security concerns and not only a technology infrastructure concerns. So just, in my view, I think that also should be a part of security roadmap than only a technology roadmap.
No, that's very logical and very true. Okay, so we're doing good on time. I do not generally moderate panel discussions which are very one-way communication. So I provoke people sitting in the audience and the delegates who are here to ask questions or make a statement or give their viewpoint. There is a hand out there, so please, can we have the mic?
Please don't ask technical questions.
You can't expect a business question from him, I'm sure.
By looking at the age, that's why I just put a disclaimer.
Hello.
Go on,
Hi,
please.
good afternoon, panelists. So, my question is basically, I heard you talking about the UPI. You mentioned a point regarding UPI. My question is that I feel there is a flaw when it comes to UPI. So the thing is that, for example, we have a number linked to our bank account, and I have a number which is linked to my bank account, and I discontinue that number. So now the thing is that somebody else who has got that number and has linked that to his account. The thing is that I will still be receiving money on that. So that is something which is which comes out to be a flaw in the system.
Answer?
Both of you can answer. I think both of you are relevant to.
I don't know whether you actually tried it. So the UPI has a built-in capability called device binding. So your device basically also get binded with with your ID as well. Also, whatever your VPA is. So at least we have not seen people misusing that. So if you have some workaround and we can show us, then that will be a good in any way. But
Yes, sir.
usually
So actually,
there are a lot of other parameters. It gets checked before your actual UPI transaction goes through. Even
Actually,
if
I
it is,
faced that in real life. So I was making a transaction, and this issue occurred, and I was very curious to know about it. So
and it depends also, the implementation of, although most of the UPI applications are pretty much similar, whether you take Yes Bank or any other bank UPI application. But having said this, each of them has a different flavors and all that, and how they actually communicate at the back end. The NPCI is the one which has created a railroad, am I right? So we all our banks basically use that same railroad to connect to any transaction. When you do UPI transaction, it goes through the NPCI and then comes back, and then actual debit happens from your account in any way. So it could be maybe a particular bank application also flaw. We have to look at it. maybe.
Thank you, sir.
So I think this is the evolution, and I don't know when did you check that. And as Rajesh said that, so again, if you see security, every time there'll be some bug which will be identified, right? I don't know when did you test that, but as Rajesh said, NPCI, if I remember correct, I think 2.5 years back or 3 years back, they had put down, and that was also evolution of the technology. So they had put down all these things as a SIM binding. And as he said, like, okay, if you're using a UPI application of any particular bank or any particular third party, I think that application may have a problem. I have tried it because I was giving access of my UPI handle to my son and he couldn't do that. So I'm sure it might be this thing, but yeah, I think you should speak to the bank or whichever app you're using it. You need to inform those guys, because as an overall ecosystem, somewhere if there's some bug which is identified, then we need to really tune that. And another possibility could be that if somebody has put down some kind of business process from customer convenience perspective, I'm not sure because what you're using, based on that it will be. But if there is any business process as a customer convenience, let's say if you're allowed to log in and then do something, that might be a flaw, process level flaw.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Any other? Yes, please.
Hi, good afternoon. It's directly focused towards, because we have banking sector people over here. So security per se is a very prima facie, very big important perspective in infrastructure like yours. Earlier, people used to trust captive networks more. You have your own on-premise network and you rely to your own servers. But like what you brought out is that when 2 years back, people thought about working from home or having security as a service. So how this perspective really changed in the environment in which you are working for, how the mentality actually changed, and how that will be, if you can just share your experience for enabling people or your entire company to switch and to even think about, or enabling people to give a perspective to work from home rather than actually coming to office and then bringing on this.
So I'll actually share my personal experience, and I feel that maybe I'm also fortunate enough to see this wave and see how, I mean, if you sit in our CXO chair, honestly, it becomes too difficult to say every time. You can't say either yes or no, right? You have to find the balance of it. And when this happened, and you know that it was a jerk in the system, like on 22nd, it was announced that from in 2-3 days, 25th, the whole country level lockdown started, right? And it's not only the work from home, right? If you think from the bank perspective, one is the access, but if you see, this whole problem is a BCP problem, business continuity problem, right? Having access is one part of it, okay? In our BCP plan, we had epidemic and we never had pandemic. From one branch, if that branch is down, then you go to the next branch. Plus, the RBI had regulation, or rather mandate, saying that you need to be attentive and attend all the customers in all the branches, right? So our branch banking has to work. At the same time, because the travel and all those restrictions are there, so we have to provide access. And in our theory, in security theory, we say sensitive data we will not give access to remote. And when these requests started coming in, my team who was handling, ma'am, we can't give, because this is what our rule is, right? We don't give access to card data outside or any sensitive data outside. And that is where it was a very, we were on the edge, double-edged sword, saying that if we give access, this is a problem. If we don't give access, also there is a problem. And regulation says you need to ensure the customer data is protected. By giving remote access, how can you protect customer data? But it was also the downside of it, because so many phishing attacks started. Customers, if call center is not reachable, branches, they can't travel because of lockdown. How will you service the customer? Unless you give the access or VPN, VDI, whatever, we will have to do that. And the problem is not only up to that, honestly. It was a huge problem, because we provided VDI, VPN access. But the person who is working from home, does he has laptop, desktop? He may not have it. And we don't have so many laptops, right? The whole market was flooded with requirement of laptops. So if you see operationally, technical challenge, it's not only a security challenge, it is a technology challenge, it is a business level challenge. Overall, we provided, and fortunately, maybe we were prepared for the VDI access and all of those things. And for a short time, we had to take a call saying that give it and let's start fine tuning the accesses and the controls in the backend side. So maybe 2 to 3 months, it might take us a lot of time. Again, problem doesn't stop there. There are so many attacks which were happening on, I think on VPN, the VPN was exploited, right? So I think it was a good time for learning. Yeah, but finally, successfully we managed it.
Yeah, add to it. So although it's a BCP problem, but at the same time, even the BCP also, nobody in the world has actually checked 100% business continuity. Am I right? So most of the business continuity plans are built on 50%, 75%. Nobody build a business continuity for 100%. So this was like in banking, we call it a black swan event, basic. So everything shut down globally suddenly, and then everybody has to work remotely. So, and everybody has a different way of, I think some of the banks where the traditional brick and mortar type of banks are there. So they have some different type of way they worked it. For us, it was a bit easier because ours is completely digital bank. So we are branchless bank and all that. So for us, providing that sort of we already have, most of the people had the, laptops and all that, they can connect it from home. Only thing is that wherever, like certain operations in the bank can't be operated from branches and all that, or can't be operated from home. But I just actually wanted to appreciate the regulator also here, because they actually allowed, because some of the operations in the bank can't be run from the home. So, but they allowed during that period, and we basically then allowed people to work from home that way. So I think it's everybody has their own challenges, but it was like a sort of a black swan moment for most of the banks and most of the world.
Okay, so one last question before I start my conversation again with the panel.
Yeah, hi. Just would love to understand from your perspective, like, where are you guys in the journey of SASE right now? You both represent at least.
Yeah, that's the question I wanted to ask, but it's okay. I
You can go
mean,
ahead.
somebody has to ask this question.
Journey of SASE. Okay.
Rajesh can take up that
You're
question
not
completely.
I hope you're not somebody who is selling the SSE solution, am I right? So yeah, so I think as I said, as you rightly mentioned, it's a journey, am I right? So most of us are, I think, evaluating, at least in the banks and all that, considering that a lot of our workloads and all that are moved to the cloud. So we all are evaluating some way or other way, at least SSE solutions. But as it's a journey, so we will maybe go to the SASE in a couple of years' time. But at this moment, I think we are evaluating some of the SSE solutions.
So you have asked a very relevant question. I will rephrase this question in many other ways to these two distinguished
I was
speakers
passing
here.
to dodge the question, but he's going to catch me.
Okay, so you have a point.
Yep, I have one. Can you hear me okay? Yep. So SASE is a great concept and solid, right? But it talks about technologies, combinations of a lot of technologies. Some key components that are left out that we don't talk about are the people and processes behind it. So I've been in companies where the networking security team, they own their products and they don't let anybody else touch them. Combining all these technologies into a single platform, single console, do you feel there's some challenges ahead that we need to overcome with the people and processes to align those groups in order for SASE to be really successful, or SSE?
Sorry, we didn't get the last bit. So do you think, what is it? Sorry, do you think?
So I think culturally, a lot of companies, some teams have the technology, security has firewall, networking has SD-WAN. You have an IAM team that manages zero trust. All these teams have to come together and work in unity in order for SSE and SASE to become fully successful, the concept to fully work its way out. Do you feel these challenges are going to be a hard one to overcome, or do you think we can all come together and and make it happen.
So I think, so if I understood the question correctly, so you're saying that is it more of a cultural change for a organization? Am I right? Is that the?
No, so let me rephrase his question. For both the legacy organizations and the new organizations, the fact will remain that, there were strong vendors who were providing SD-WAN solutions. There were very strong vendors who are providing zero trust solutions, and other security solutions that are part of SSE. Now, are you geared up to take that approach as a consolidated, one vendor consolidated, unified solution? Is that the case?
No, so I think it's, is that the question you had?
Yeah, that's yeah.
Sure. So I think, I go back to the principle of, defense in depth, which is very relevant even in this scenario. So I would personally believe, I think, and most of the organizations would prefer to take maybe SSE and then go into later on a SSE, but they have to have a separate vendors to do that activity instead of just having a one single vendor providing it, because at the end of the day, if it is one particular vulnerability which is compromised in particular one SASE provider, you may have the whole network, or even all your workloads can be a compromise. So I would at least prefer to have a separate vendor approach versus the.
Okay, let me ask you a question. I mean, he gave an answer which was right from his perspective, but do you think that any particular technology or a security vendor has the capabilities of putting all of these elements together and offer as one unified solution?
Well, you can't ask me that because I work at Netscope, so I obviously know my answer. But honestly, we support Netscope internally from a zero or customer zero. So we like to test it out internally in our corporate environment before hopefully it rolls out to the production. Or not production, customers. So we have faced challenges internally of, a networking team, please work with us in Unity to, put away your existing VPN solution and adopt, our zero trust solution. So we've run into challenges internally. I know companies would fall into a similar category. And to answer your question, to keep them separate, that kind of goes against some of the Gartner, definitions around SSE. It's supposed to be a combined solution with a combined dashboard, centrally managed type of thing. So that's the question I was asking. In alignment with Gartner's definition, do you think that's achievable?
See, having a problem of implementing a single solution for everything is it's like jack of everything, right? And there'll be hardly any solution who really has the depth in each domain, right? If we talk about SASE, there are 4-5 products what we are talking about it. So actually for product companies, and for example, let's say endpoint security, if we take endpoint security or CASB, not necessarily that the same solution will provide in-depth exhaustive solution. Rather, the product companies, the way we talk about collaboration. So this is what in every panel or rather conference, collaboration is one of the product. I think between the product companies also there need to be a collaboration, and you need to see how the different solution can interoperate with each other. And then only I think we will have a very good cohesive system where we talk about having the best of breed product, but they work very well with each other. So I think that is again an evolution. I think I'm sure in technology evolution, like earlier 10-15 years back, we were having P2P API integration, and now nobody is talking about P2P API integration. We are talking about ESB. And I remember 20 years back, ESB was a very, very new concept, right? So maybe for our cybersecurity product also, I think that maturity will come. It's a matter of time. But being a CISO, we feel we need the best solutions and in-depth solution of that area. And overall, yes, consolidation helps from our own perspective because we have end-to-end visibility about that. But today, I don't think, there is even product company who is really matured enough to give end-to-end solution for everything.
Okay, so I have last 5 minutes left, 7 minutes left. Gentlemen, yeah, please.
Hi, I'm Dipesh Jain, CISO, Power Finance Corporation.
Wonderful.
And when we talk about the integrated approach and the overall coverage of the security part, so as we know that RBI has put up a security framework for banks and NBFCs to have the complete coverage. So I just wanted to have a highlight of your organizations from Paytm and Yes Bank. That have you framed up any framework for your organization as per RBI guidelines, which covers all the aspects, the SaaS aspect and other different in-depth approaches aspects, so that there is, end-to-end thought process gone into the future roadmap of security in your organization?
Honestly, we don't have a choice. So we have to do that.
In front of regulators, you are hands folded.
And once there is a regulation, see, being a CISO, we also take this opportunity because when there is a guideline, we also have a basis to drive that internally. So we also take that basis. Now, when you define this whole roadmap, and again, what we defined roadmap 3 years back and what roadmap during pandemic we had to change. So every year we also have to look back because the whole threat landscape is changing every time, the kind of trend which is changing every time. So we have to keep on changing that. But I don't think security is like once you do it and forget about it, right? It's a journey and we have to keep on visiting to that roadmap and see what do we change it, what do we deprioritize, what do we prioritize it, and we need to have cost benefit analysis, and based on that I think obviously we have to be dynamic, we have to be agile.
Right, yes, of course.
And in the add to what Anuprita said. So now for banks, am I right? So for RBI released the cybersecurity framework in 2016, and then they also keep updating. Now they have released last year, about 6 months back, digital payment security framework, because they saw the whole growth of UPI and the whole digital payment. So they released that, which is again very, very futuristic sort of direction, master direction, which they've released it. So I think they also keep it's as most of speakers also were saying here. So it's evolving the area, and when they see something new happening, they also, I don't think so they have come up specifically with any specific technology like SASE or SSE, but they will have that framework which will basically define the cloud related controls versus your data center related controls.
That's an important point. Okay, people don't like me as a moderator, therefore there are people who are asking questions, so I'm happy to give it away.
But Rahul, maybe we can say that they're liking our answers.
That's true. That's true.
That's definitely true. So hi, my name is Prathamesh. I'm from Nine Consulting. I work as a senior security engineer there. So my question is to all of you guys, adding to the search futuristic word. So how much integration or per se penetration of AI is going around within your organization? Have you already added some analytics, or like how strong do you believe your AI capabilities are according to individuals' organizations?
So can you be a little specific? AI in what sense? I mean, to perform what function?
Your product or services which you guys provide.
Okay.
In that,
okay.
Have you already integrated all of this, or is it something you are, as a futuristic scenario, you are working on that?
So that's less of a security question than of a product.
Yeah. So now I'll maybe Anuprita and me, we may be able to give you a perspective from a bank's point of view, because banking usually adopt technology, whether it's AI, ML and all that, pretty quickly versus any other industry. So we will just stick to our industry, and we will just tell you about that industry. So AI in the banks uses multiple ways they will use it, right? Even our fraud recognition and all that, when every transaction happens digitally, am I right? So within that fraction of second, we have to take a call. So, and then millions of transactions happens every minute and every second and all that, am I right? So that AI as part of that is already built into it. It looks into your profile. It sees where exactly you're coming in from, and all that is rule engines and the learning engines are built into into a lot of our fraud solutions. Similarly, if you go to the security solutions, then all our your SIM solutions and all that, because millions of logs comes in, right? So there again has to be some sort of a decision has to be taken based on the some of the learnings and all that. So a lot of our solutions in the SIM and all that are having a AI and ML capabilities built into it. And similarly, any other even for some of the operations areas, I know they as part of creating a processes and all that, they build AI and ML capabilities within it. So each of them has a different use cases, but at least these are the 3-4 I know where definitely most of the banks has capabilities.
Adding to that, robo-advisory.
I'm sorry, you will have Rajesh with you one-on-one. Don't worry, pick up his brains. But I am running short on time, so I want to honor that. You have a minute to answer.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say that, AI, so I just wanted to put a correlation. Like earlier we were saying that, okay, whether your organization is breached or you don't know that you have been breached. And AI tool has been taken as the foundation to increase the productivity, right? Whether it is cybersecurity or, as I said, like fraud risk management or even, your process automation and all. So AI has been a very good tool where we say that we have limited hands and legs and brains. How do we utilize it optimally? And that is where AI is being used. But again, AI is a huge term and there are lot many things about it. Are you saying that everything has been implemented? There is no, because right from my college days, I'm learning about AI and still there is a lot of research which is going on in AI. So have we implemented everything? There's no end to it, honestly.
Okay, so one final question, because I will be then shunted out of the room if I exceed my time.
Okay, yeah, thanks for the opportunity. This is Darshan, I work for Tesco. So this question is pointed towards Anupita. So I see that you are a CISO as well as data privacy officer. So how do you see that working in real life? I mean, do you think it's, there's some kind of, how do you balance both of them? Keeping in mind that, let's say data privacy also talks about customers' data not being used for data analytics and stuff like that. And also security operations coming into this, where you're trying to do it in a secure way. How do you balance this? Is there some kind of, how do you see that? That's the question to you.
So first of all, I realize that my designation and myself is so vulnerable. Right? So coming back to giving my perspective. So what happens is that we look at whether cybersecurity or data privacy in different angles. But if you look at it, the cybersecurity or data privacy, we need to start looking at from the business perspective, right? For example, even in the banking perspective, we talk about card data security or personal data security. And we do a lot of processes like product review, process review, business process review. We engage with the businesses. We review all the business processes, and why we combine with the cybersecurity. And again, whether there's a right way, wrong way, which we don't know, but potentially we felt like, okay, as a synergy, it goes well. So we felt like, okay, why two different people going and doing two different studies in isolation? Rather, while we are looking at the business process and where we are really having a conversation with the business from business perspective, whether there is a card data, whether there is authentication level control, maker checker level control, and the privacy control. So we need to fix this from the base framework itself. And therefore we decided to have a single team, at least identifying what the data is. And then eventually you have in privacy, you have a lot many things like, your right to forget, right to information and all of the things. But again, one team is only going to drive it, but obviously we will be joined by so many people within the company to make this as a whole framework. So for example, even in cybersecurity framework, when we have a council and all, we have multiple people who are working together, right? The same way this will happen. So this was our thought process, and because of that, probably I got two titles. So, but okay, there was a logic for that.
Thank you so much. I think we started with SSE, SSE minus A. We went to a lot of other places during the conversation. However, the purpose of this whole discussion was that if we can have participation and answer the real questions from some of the participants that have put up for us, There's always, scope for more, but we are bound with the time frame. And she's courteous enough to not show me your time is over. Get away from the stage. So thank you so much, Anukrita and
Quite
Rajesh.
interesting questions from you and from the delegates. Thank you so much.